Back by popular demand, it's everybody's favorite scum deck. Alright everybody, you guys hit me up in the comments asking for an update because a lot of you decided to watch this video late and didn't know I made it before the ban list and kept telling me Called by the Grave was hit, which I was very aware of. But yes, that did suck. I'm still running Rescue Rabbit even though Called by helped that play go off a lot more. I'll show you some of my subtle changes, and I also, due to your requests, I took in some of your suggestions to the deck, and I also am providing a side deck too this time. So let's get into what everybody hates. Biggity bam, biggity bam. So, starting off the monsters, like I mentioned before, I'm still running our 3 Rescue Rabbit. I know he's way more susceptible to getting ashed, especially with Called by being hit to 1. I opted in my testing not even to run Called by anymore. Just that one, it was so useless. Just I was never seeing it when I needed it. It became more of an offensive card than defensive card. And I'm still running Rescue Rabbit because when it doesn't get negated, it's still really powerful to just bring out 2 free Evilswarm Heliotrope. Pretty much you just have to see Rescue Rabbit as an Ophion or any other rank 4 that helps you get out of a sticky situation. Most of our monsters have not changed from the last time. We still have our 3 caster who's going to help you get to most of your plays and your Rhoda target. 3 Kirkion to help extend plays a little bit later in game. Only 1 Thunderbird still just because it's a different name and I still like Thunderbird. And I'm still maining 2, not 3 DD Crow because, like I said before, I like DD Crow because I'm not really using Ash in anything anymore. And unlike the other hand traps, when this is dead in my hand, it can still be a lure target and be nice to just exchange itself for a couple other cards. And that's pretty much it for our monsters. Like I said, our monster count pretty much stayed really low. For our spells, however, some things have changed. So the first big change is I'm running 3 Unexpected Die again. Some people had let me know about just this card's relevancy for the deck in the comments, and if you watched a lot of the older Evilswarm profiles, I did used to run this at 2, but going forward now, just sometimes being a little bit more prepped for having to go second and just how good this card is when your rabbit is dead or not wanting to risk your rabbit. Unexpected Die just really helps a lot in this deck, and it hasn't been too bricky at 3. Still running 3 Allure because everything is dark. Literally every single monster you run in the main deck is dark, and sometimes we just need to see a nice better mix of traps or just some different monsters, like preferably our caster. And then I'm still running 2 Desires because as sacky as this card is, we run so many 3-ofs in this deck, you can afford this a lot. Like most of the things that are important to make this deck strong are at 3. So I don't mind Desires. Of course, with a card like Desires, there's always those chances you get super unlucky and hit multiple copies to something you needed, but that's what's great about Desires is when it works hard, you know? Another big change is I was maining Mistake before, but I am now maining 2 Deck Lockdown because it is Mistake with a little bit something extra. It does go away after your second standby phase after activation, but if you're not familiar with what this card does, is neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand except by drawing them, which is Mistake's inherent first effect. And then secondly, monsters cannot be summoned from the main deck, which just adds extra scumminess to Evilswarm, and you know, we want to make people hate this deck as much as possible. So Deck Lockdown has just been really nice in my testing, and I recommend it to you as well. Still 2 Infestation Pandemic. Don't want to put it at 3, but I also don't want to not have it if I have to Desires first. So that's really the only reason 2 are in here. 3 is a little sacky. Not many people are running much Regeki and like board wiping cards for your monsters anyway, so you don't really need this too much, but I do like 2. I'm very uncomfortable with it at 1. And then for our only 2 1-ofs of the deck, I don't run Monster Reborn anymore, although I do miss it sometimes, but I'm still maining D-Fissure just because it's so oppressive of a card and it can just really crap on a lot of decks. And then of course you need to run Rhoda because it's the 4th copy of your caster, and he's just really important for this deck. Now on to my favorite part of the deck, which is the traps, which has also significantly changed from my last, but the side kind of makes up for a little bit of the things I miss. So we are running 3 Infinite Impermanence just because this card is so good, and we're not running many other hand traps, so Impermanence just fits a lot of the mold, which helps protect your Ophion because some niche monsters can get over him too. So I just love Impermanence at 3. And then in testing and with some guidance from Machuca, I've learned that out of all the floodgates I was trying to run in the past, there can only be one got bumped up to 3 because literally all your Evilswarms are a different type. Like even when you need to rebuild and they got over your board, if this card is already on field, it's not going to stop you from still getting to that Ophion. So it's just really good right now, especially with like decks like Dragon Link and stuff running around that are all going to be summoning a lot of the same kind of cards. And the only way this can really bite you in the ass is if you're playing zombies and zombie worlds on the field. But that's obviously pretty niche. And yeah, that's pretty much my explanation for there can only be one. Then if you paid attention in the last profile, I was running Warning, but out of a lot of hate from a lot of friends in the comment section, I did cop out and decide that Judgment is overall just better right now in the meta. So I swapped out the 2 Warnings for 2 Judgment. I was tempted to just make it 3 Judgment, but I'm very petty, and so I didn't have a 3rd secret, and I only had 1 Ghost, and I like to match, so I'm just running the 2 Judgment for now. But Judgment could be pretty much any other hard-hitting trap if you don't like running the Solemn cards, but I just feel like they're necessary. And then for our 1-of traps, I'm running 1 Macrocosmos in the main still. Brought back the Eradicator Epidemic Virus because it's nice for before you get to side if you're inherently running a deck that Ophion does nothing against. At least you can still shut out a lot of spells or traps, or, you know, odd chance you're playing Paleos, you can shut out traps, period. And just a lot of different nice reasons why Eradicator Epidemic Virus is good. And then for our last 1-of is a card I used to side. I've mained in past profiles for Evilswarm, but I just love a lot, and especially since we're really back row reliant in this deck and there's a lot more wiping cards in today's meta, I'm also maining Starlight Road again. It's just really, really good. In testing, you know, I'll see if I want to put the Stardust Dragon back in the main deck. We talked about it, but I just ended up not doing it for this profile. But sometimes you still can set a bunch and get a Stardust Dragon off. But the main reason I don't run Stardust anymore with this is because if you have Ophion first, you can't even summon your Stardust Dragon anyways off of this effect. So but in testing, this has just been really nice to protect your traps. Like, it just comes in super clutch. People don't see it coming. It's a really old card, you know? Now on to the extra deck. So I'm still running 3 Ophion, but if you had or wanted to fit space for Stardust Dragon, I would just take out 1 Ophion and rock the Stardust just for, you know, in case it happens. But I still like 3 Ophion because even though you're probably not going to make 3 in a turn, it's just nice to have extra if one gets taken care of a lot earlier than you expected. Then to round off our Evilswarms, if it's still the same from last time, no Ouroboros yet. I just feel like his effect isn't as good enough to take up the 3 monsters he uses, so we're just running 1 Exciton Knight because he's generic, plus he's still an Evilswarm. The Bahamut because it just comes in so clutch sometimes. It's a big eye without an attack restriction. And then, of course, Evilswarm Nightmare because this can stop people's plays early if they're having to summon a lot of monsters before they can link or do other things, and you can just flip a bunch of stuff face down. For our generic rank 4s, the only thing that changed, the only new card, is I'm running Time Thief Redoer, just because he's really niche and annoying and I kind of like his effect. Still running Utopia with Utopia the Lightning because getting over really annoying monsters that are strong is important, and, you know, he pumps up really big. 1 Tornado Dragon because we don't main any back row, you know, support, like no Twin Twisters or anything. And still the 1 Castel for my same reasoning as before. It's better to remove stuff than destroy nowadays because a lot of things can't even be destroyed. And then lastly, the Abyss Dweller because Abyss Dweller is annoying and shuts down a lot of decks. And then for our last 3 monsters, we still are running a couple links, even though this isn't a super crazy link deck. I'm still running Underclock Taker because it helps you get over annoying monsters when you do have a bunch of monsters in hand. Like I said, you're not going to really be using your resources in this deck to link too much, and it is going to take a little bit more of a broken hand than most decks to even be able to link in this deck. But Underclock Taker just replaced the Wee Witch I was running from last time because she had the risk of if your opponent's running Dark, well, she's pumping them too, and I used her recycling effect as a reason to run her, but she just isn't needed in this deck. Some things people asked me why I wasn't running before, and it was because of the way the meta was. But now going further into Master Rule 5, I'm running Steel Swarm Origin again, because the fact that it restricts people to summoning from the extra deck to a regular monster zone only to the zone it points to, it actually became a little bit more OP in Master Rule 5, because now you can summon anything you want. And if it's a synchro or fusion heavy deck, inherently this card just naturally just locks them to only being able to summon one thing until they get rid of it. So it became a little bit more relevant. Still don't know how I feel about it fully, so that's why it's at 1, but it is nice now that it's come back. And then mainly just because Dragoons, and I can afford to sometimes heavy link in this deck, especially if you've kept them locked down for a while. I still run the one Borolo Dragon just because it just can get over a lot of annoying monsters with the same whole like thing that they can't be destroyed, they can't be targeted, and things like that. So that's just my personal preference. You probably might want to run more of like rank 4s if you feel need. A lot of people still like to run Master Key Beetle to protect their Ophion, or run Baguska in case you didn't open too well. But since some decks can afford to summon and just start linking right away, Baguska doesn't seem as aggressive as he used to be. And so this is the only 3 links I choose to run for now, and that pretty much rounds off our extra deck. So now we go on to our side deck. So keep in mind, one thing I would advise if you were to switch up the side deck is I kind of do want to put some Twin Twisters back in this, since we don't have a lot of back row hate for our deck, or if you can afford Lightning Storms and stuff like that. But I pretty much just prepped mine to keep a little bit of the anti-meta spice I had from before, and to keep myself a little bit more prepped for going second, because one thing any Evilswarm player will tell you is this deck really does suck at going second, unless you're willing to completely switch up what the deck does. So for my side deck to help me go second, I'm running one Mandragora still, just because he's nice to throw in when you know you're going to be going second, because if you open him, you might want to do a couple more copies. I'm got my 3rd copy of Deck Lockdown, just because in my testing of overall anti-meta lockdown cards I've been running, this has come in clutch. One Regeki for just a simple, I'm going to go second and it'd be nice to be able to wipe some stuff away before I do my plays. And then with going second, I'm running 2 Nibiru and 3 of Sphere Mode. You could obviously switch these ratios up, or you could just run a 3rd Nibiru straight out. But like I said, this deck really struggles with going second, so you could easily switch a lot of this stuff for hand traps or other things that prep you for going second. But for me, this is the stuff that's most important, because I just need to, these are technically like kaijus and can help you get around those monsters that aren't affected by a bunch of crap. Then, because we're doing a bunch of traps, the 2nd Starlight Road is in here. You could run 3, but it's a little overkill for me. I used to main them, and this was the hardest card for me to take out the main deck, because I loved my Evilswarms being really oppressive, and people didn't see this ever coming in the main. So I'm still siding my 3 anti-spells, just because you never know when you're going to run into something like Sky Strikers or any deck that's very reliant on their spells. And then another card that was also in the main, but I've decided could be more of a side, is I'm also still, I got 3 Crackdown in the side. So very easily to make space if you like some of these cards I run. You could easily knock out the Mandragora and Deck Lockdown, because they don't do too much for you, and you can cut these each to 2 for the side. And then it gives you a little bit more space to add things that you find a little bit more helpful. But just for the direction I was trying to take Evilswarm in, which I think the only direction is, which is annoying, this has played out the best in my experience with dueling a bunch of my friends while we're all locked down. You know, it'd be nice to be able to take this out to a regional or something, but we'll get back there when time comes. With that being said, everybody, this was your Everybody Hates You Ophion deck. So let us know in the comment section below what you want to see in the future. If you want us to redo any of our other deck profiles, follow us on our social media. Make sure you check out the TCG Player affiliate link if you want to go ahead and buy yourself some cards or build Evilswarm yourself. And we'll see you on the next deck profile.
Evilswarm?
Yeah.
I don't know who demanded
Why?
They kept asking for it in the comments, and then they said, "Please give us side this
That's
time."
what I said. I don't know who demanded. If this ends up on at the end, and you can hear my voice, if you demanded it, I swear to God.
All right, here we go.
I don't know what's wrong with you.